Hello, I am here to tell you a story about the painter Giulia Lama. That's L-A-M-A. She was a painter in the 1600s, 1700s, actually born October 1st, 1681, and died in 1747. So she was quite unusual for her time, because this is a time when most of the painters, virtually all of the painters, were men, and very, very few women were working in the arts at all. Women were really expected to be home, be mothers and wives and things like that. But Giulia Lama, her father was a painter, and she decided she wanted to learn as well. So she grew up kind of in his workshop, learning to paint, learning to draw, along with the others who came through. In fact, one of the other famous painters who came from that same workshop was Piazzetta. And it's interesting, some people thought that maybe Piazzetta was the teacher of Giulia Lama, but it's more research is now being done into her life, and it sounds like he wasn't her teacher, he was her friend and someone who admired her as much, admired her work just as much. In fact, he painted a portrait of her that's one of the best known, that gives us a good sense of what she looked like. And unfortunately, people from the time period, especially men, other male painters, would focus on her looks and claimed that she was not attractive, and used that as a way to try and downplay her abilities. This kind of thing was pretty common. Women who were working in fields that were usually male dominated, there was often some way to attack them, and so this was the way that people used against her. But when you see the painting, the portrait of her, you also see sort of a lively look in her eye, a vivaciousness, I think, and it sounds like that was borne out in her life. There is some research now that says she was probably the first woman painter, at least in Europe, to sketch and paint male nudes. And we know that in the workshop, her father's workshop, and the others that she went on to work in, they had both male and female nude models. And again, women usually were not in these spaces unless they were the models. But Giulia Lama did sketch. There's so much work going into identifying her work now, and there's few works that we know for sure are by her. But I just came across something the other day. I haven't checked to make sure how accurate it is, but came across something new that said that there are 200 sketches by her of male nudes. So again, need to check that fact. But there's at least some evidence that she was working like that. And one of the things she's especially known for, kind of two things: the idea of foreshortening, being able to see the body from below. In fact, apparently in her father's workshop, they did this kind of work a lot. And she also does a lot of bodies that are sort of twisted, showing the musculature. So that's part of her particular look, and also something called tenebrism. It's a sharp contrast between lights and darks, and you'll see this in her paintings especially, even more than the sketches. She has paintings in a number of churches here in Venice, at San Vidal, at San Marziale, which is the one right behind me, closed, so I can't get in and see it right now, but Save Venice is doing some restoration work right now, and so if you go to the Save Venice website, you'll see the restoration work they're doing on the spandrels, which is work by her. And then also the altar at Santa Maria Formosa, and I think a church on, if I remember correctly, Mazzorbo as well. So she's really quite an amazing painter. One of the most important things about her work for her time period is she did very large commissions that were in churches. So the few other women who were painting, like Maria Robusti and Rosalba Carriera and a couple others, mostly were doing small portrait work or even miniatures. But Giulia Lama was doing the large commissions in the churches, just like all of the male painters of her time. So she's quite remarkable. There's new research going into her life and work now. So keep looking. She's someone really worth paying attention to.